The rain hammered down like it had a personal grudge against Seattle that night, turning the streets into rivers of regret. I slammed my palm against the steering wheel of my beat-up Honda Civic, cursing under my breath as the tire hissed its final, mocking breath on the side of I-5. "Not tonight, universe," I muttered, but the universe, that cruel bastard, just laughed through the downpour. That's when the pickup truck pulled up behind me, its high beams cutting through the storm like a lifeline I didn't deserve. The door creaked open, and out stepped this guy, tall, broad-shouldered, with a toolkit swinging from one hand like it was an extension of his arm. He didn't say a word at first, just flipped up his hood against the rain and crouched by my wheel, his flashlight beam dancing over the shredded rubber. "You got a spare?" His voice was gravelly, warm despite the chill, like aged whiskey on a winter's eve. I nodded, fumbling for my phone's dying light, and that's how Mark Riley met Anthony Hale, stranded, soaked, and stupidly grateful on a highway that felt like the edge of the world. I hopped out of the car, the rain instantly plastering my button down to my skin. I'd been coming back from another soul-crushing shift at the ad agency downtown, the kind where my boss, a chain-smoking tyrant named Victor, had ripped into my latest campaign pitch like it was toilet paper. "Riley, you call this creative? It's as flat as your personality," he'd barked, and I'd swallowed the burn, clocked out at 11, and hit the road with nothing but a half-empty thermos of black coffee and a playlist of indie folk that only made me feel more alone. Anthony didn't pry as he jacked up the car, his hands steady and sure, calluses catching the light from passing semis. He was in his early 30s, I guessed, with a 5 o'clock shadow that screamed, blue-collar heartthrob, and eyes the color of Puget Sound on a stormy day, deep blue, pulling you in. A faded Seattle Mariners cap kept the rain from his face, and his flannel shirt clung just enough to hint at the muscles underneath, earned from years of whatever honest work kept a guy like him grounded. "Name's Anthony," he said finally, wiping mud from his wrench onto his jeans. "You, Mark. Thanks for this, man. I owe you a beer or, hell, a kidney if you need one," he chuckled, low and genuine, the sound cutting through the rain like sunlight. "Beer's fine. You live around here, Pike Place area." "You, Ballard." "Born and raised." He torqued the last lug nut, then stood, towering over me by a good 6 inches. Up close, he smelled like pine soap and wet earth, nothing like the cologne-drenched execs I dealt with daily. "Drive safe. Roads are slick as hell tonight." I slid back into the driver's seat, the spare tire humming solidly now, and watched him jog back to his truck. Our eyes met in the rearview. His crinkled at the corners with a half-smile, and something twisted in my chest, sharp and unfamiliar. Not just relief. Something deeper, like a crack in the armor I'd built around my heart since coming out in college, only to get ghosted by every guy who'd promised more than a hookup. The next morning, nursing a hangover from the adrenaline crash, I texted the number he'd scrawled on a scrap of receipt. "Beer tonight? My treat." 8 p.m. "The lock and keel?" His reply came fast, "You're on." "Don't stand me up, flat tire boy." The Lock and Keel was a dive bar in Fremont, all exposed brick and craft IPAs, the kind of place where hipsters rubbed elbows with fishermen and nobody batted an eye at two guys sharing a corner booth. I got there early, fidgeting with the label on my stout, replaying the night before like a bad rom-com. Why him? Why now? I'd sworn off dating after my last disaster. Jake, the graphic designer who'd bailed when his evangelical folks came to town, leaving me with a ghosted Grindr profile and trust issues thicker than Seattle fog. Anthony walked in right on time, shaking off his jacket, his damp hair curling at the temples. He spotted me and grinned, sliding into the seat across from me with the ease of someone who owned every room he entered. "You clean up nice," he said, eyeing my chambray shirt. "Less drowned rat, more hipster heartthrob." I laughed, heat creeping up my neck. Says the guy who looks like he stepped out of a Timberland ad. We ordered wings and talked easy, flowing talk that skipped the small stuff and dove straight into the marrow. He was a contractor, specializing in historic renovations around the city, the kind that saved old Victorians from the wrecking ball. "Love giving buildings a second chance," he said, popping a fry into his mouth. "They've got stories etched in every beam." I told him about the agency grind, the endless pitches that felt like selling my soul for a corner office I didn't even want. "I'm good at it, but it's not me. Feels like I'm fixing everyone else's flats while mine keep blowing out." His gaze held mine, steady and searching. "Then quit chasing their roads. Find your own." By the third round, the bar had emptied out, and we were the last ones, shoulders brushing as we leaned in over shared stories. He admitted he'd been married once, briefly, to a woman in his early 20s, small-town pressure. He called it, before realizing his heartbeat for men. "Came out messy. Lost friends, half my family. But hell, it's freeing. Like finally breathing after holding it in too long." I nodded, the words unlocking something in me. I'd never said it aloud to anyone outside therapy, but there it was. I think I'm scared of that freedom. What if I run and there's nowhere to land? Anthony's hand covered mine on the table, rough thumb tracing my knuckles. "Then you learn to fly, Mark. Or you find someone to catch you." The kiss happened outside, under the neon buzz of the bar's sign, rain misting the air again. His lips were soft despite the stubble, tasting of hops and hesitation, and when he pulled back, his eyes were wide, like he'd surprised himself too. "Shit," he whispered, forehead against mine. "That okay?" "More than," I breathed, and just like that, the highway flat became the spark that lit up the dark corners of my life. We tumbled into my apartment 2 blocks away, a cramped studio overlooking the market, all exposed brick and secondhand bookshelves. Clothes hit the floor in a wet heap. My shirt, his flannel, jeans tangled like forgotten promises. His body was a map of hard work, scars from construction falls, tattoos snaking up his arms. A compass rose on his bicep, pointing north like it knew where we were headed. In the dim light of my bedside lamp, he moved like he was building something sacred, hands mapping my skin with the same precision he used on beams and nails. "You're beautiful," he murmured against my collarbone, voice thick with want, and I believed him because in that moment, with his weight pinning me to the sheets, I felt seen, really seen, for the first time since the world had tried to unmake me. Afterward, tangled in sweat-damp sheets, he traced lazy circles on my chest. "This feels right, Mark. Like I was supposed to pull over last night." I smiled into the dark, his heartbeat syncing with mine. Fate's got a weird sense of humor. But as sleep pulled me under, a sliver of doubt wormed in. What if this was just another roadside rescue, temporary as a spare tire? The weeks blurred into a rhythm that felt dangerously like home. Mornings started with his coffee brewing in my kitchen, black and strong, while I scrolled emails on my laptop. He'd kiss my temple, mutter something about a job site in Capitol Hill, and be gone before the sun crested the Olympics. Evenings were ours, walks along the waterfront, hands brushing until fingers laced. Dinners at hole-in-the-wall faux spots where we'd argue over the merits of Nirvana versus Pearl Jam. Me defending the grunge kings, him countering with his love for Springsteen, that working man's poet. Anthony opened doors I'd bolted shut. He dragged me to a queer open mic in Capitol Hill, where drag queens lip-synced to Ariana Grande and poets spilled verses about lost loves that hit too close to home. I read once, a shaky piece about flats and fixers, and he hooped from the front row, eyes shining like I'd hung the moon. "You're glowing," he said later, pulling me into an alley for a kiss that tasted like rebellion. But cracks showed, subtle at first. Late nights when he'd come home reeking of sawdust and something sharper, whiskey, maybe, and crash without a word. I'd wake to empty coffee mugs and notes scrawled on napkins. Early sight. Love you. Love. He dropped it casual one Sunday, flipping pancakes in nothing but boxers, and I'd frozen, spatula mid-air, before whispering it back like a prayer. My job, though that beast didn't let go easy. Victor ramped up the pressure, piling on revisions for a big tobacco client that made my stomach turn. "Riley, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen," he'd sneer in meetings, his cigar smoke curling like accusations. I confided in Anthony over takeout Thai one night, fork stabbing at Pad CEW. "It's killing me. Feels like I'm betraying everything I believe in." He set his chopsticks down, jaw tight. "Then walk. Life's too short for soul sucks. Easy for you to say. You've got your hands in the dirt, building real shit. I'm just words on a screen." His hand found my knee under the table, squeezing. "Those words could build something too, if you let them. Freelance. Write what matters. Hell, write about us." The idea lodged in my brain like a seed, sprouting in stolen moments. Snippets of our story, typed into a Google Doc titled Roadside Redemption. It was raw, unpolished me, the jaded ad man, him, the fixer with a heart of oak. But it felt true, a testament to the man who'd patched more than rubber that rainy night. One crisp October evening, as leaves turned the parks to fire, Anthony blindfolded me after dinner. "Trust me," he said, voice laced with mischief, and led me stumbling to his truck. We drove 20 minutes north, the city fading to suburbs, then pulled into a gravel lot bathed in sunset gold. "Welcome home," he said, untying the blindfold. It was a half-renovated craftsman bungalow in Green Lake, his porch sagging but promising, surrounded by maples shedding crimson confetti. "My latest project," he explained, key in hand. "But it's more than that. Ours, if you want it." My throat tightened. Inside, exposed beams arched like welcoming arms. The kitchen gutted but with a window overlooking the lake where kayaks dotted the water like thoughts. "You serious?" As a heart attack, he pulled me close, lips brushing my ear. "I want mornings here, with you. Pancakes and plans. No more studio shoeboxes." Tears pricked my eyes. Happy ones, the kind that scare you because they're so rare. "Anthony." A car horn blared outside, shattering the moment. He glanced at his phone, frown deepening. "Work call. Rain check on the tour." I nodded, watching him go, the doubt creeping back like fog off the water. Who was this man? Really? The one who fixed everything but sometimes looked at me like I was the thing most in need of repair? That night, alone in my apartment, I poured a glass of bourbon, his brand, Knob Creek, and opened my laptop. The story poured out, 2,000 words of us. The rain, the wrench, the way his laugh could chase shadows from the room. It ended on a high note, hopeful, but as I hit save, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw you with Hale. Careful, pretty boy. He's got ghosts. My blood ran cold. Who the hell was this? And what ghosts haunted the man who'd promised me a forever fix? The anonymous text sat like a splinter in my thumb for days, nagging, impossible to ignore. I didn't tell Anthony, didn't want to shatter the fragile bubble we'd built, all lazy Sundays and whispered I love yous. But it colored everything. The way his phone would buzz during dinner and he'd silence it too quick. The late nights at job sites that stretched till dawn, leaving sawdust trails and excuses in their wake. I threw myself into work instead, churning out copy for that godforsaken tobacco campaign. Slogans like, "Ignite your fire," that tasted like ash in my mouth. Victor loved it, of course, slapping my back in the break room with his meaty paw. Knew you had it in you, Riley. Promotion's coming. Keep this up, and you'll be running the show. The praise curdled in my gut. Running the show meant more lies, more selling poison wrapped in pretty words. I emailed my first freelance pitch that afternoon, a lifestyle piece on Seattle's hidden queer history for a local mag. They bit, and the check that followed felt like the first real breath in months. Anthony noticed the shift, of course. We were at his Ballard apartment one night, a loft above a garage, cluttered with tools and blueprints, curled on his thrift store couch watching Brokeback Mountain for the umpteenth time. Ennis's quiet tragedy always gutted me, that unspoken love doomed by the world's sharp edges. Anthony pulled me closer during the tense scene, his breath warm on my neck. You okay? You've been distant. I hesitated, the text burning a hole in my pocket. Just work. And this, I gestured vaguely at the screen. Makes you think, you know, about holding on when everything screams let go. He paused the movie, turning to face me, his blue eyes searching mine like blueprints for a foundation crack. I'm holding on, Mark. To you. To us. His fingers threaded through my hair, tugging gently. Whatever's got you twisted, talk to me. We're builders. Remember, we fixed the brakes. I wanted to spill it all, the text, the fear that our roadside fairy tale was built on sand. Instead, I kissed him, fierce and desperate, pouring my doubts into the press of lips and tongues. We made love on the couch, slow and deliberate, his body arching under mine like a wave cresting. Afterward, spent and sticky, he murmured against my skin, "You're my anchor, city boy. Don't forget that." But anchors can drag you down, too. The freelance gig snowballed. The mag wanted more, interviews with elders who'd marched in the first Pride, stories of bathhouses turned community centers. I dove in, tape recorder in hand, wandering Capitol Hill's rainbow crosswalked streets, capturing voices that echoed my own buried aches. One afternoon, chatting with a silver-haired activist named Theo at a cafe on Broadway, he leaned in over his latte. "You got that look, kid. The one that says you're falling hard and scared shitless." I laughed it off, but Theo's eyes twinkled. "Listen, love's like this city, rainy, rugged, full of hidden beauty. But it demands you show up raw. No varnish." His words stuck as I walked home, the space needle piercing the clouds like a question mark. Raw. That's what Anthony gave me. Unfiltered, callous truth. So why couldn't I do the same? That weekend, he surprised me with a hike up Rattlesnake Ledge, our pack stuffed with PB and JS and thermoses of soup. The trail was a muddy beast after a week of drizzle, roots slick as eels, But Anthony led the way, his boots sure-footed, hand extended whenever I slipped. At the top, the Cascades sprawled below us, jagged and eternal, Lake Sammamish a blue vein threading the green. He spread a blanket, unpacked a flask of Irish whiskey. To us, he toasted, clinking his tin cup to mine. 2 months in, and you're still putting up with my snoring. Miracle worker, that's me. I grinned, but my heart thudded. This was the moment. Spill the beans, trust the fix. Instead, the words died as his phone chirped. He glanced at it, face tightening, and powered it off. Work bullshit. Later. Anthony. Mark. Wait. He set the flask down, pulling me into his lap, the ridge of the ledge at our backs. I know I've been off. Truth is, my ex, Derek, he's back in town, stirring shit. My stomach dropped. Derek, the ex from his married days? No, he'd said it was a woman. Ex, not like that, he sighed, rubbing his neck. College buddy. We hooked up once. Messy. Before I figured myself out. Now he's some hotshot developer, buying up properties in Ballard. Wants me on his crew, big money, but strings attached. Old feelings, maybe. I told him no, but he won't drop it. Relief flooded me, chased by jealousy's bitter aftertaste. And nothing. You're it for me. His kiss sealed it, whiskey sweet and sure, the world narrowing to the heat between us, the wind whispering secrets through the pines. But secrets have a way of howling back. Monday brought hellfire. Victor called me into his office, the air thick with his aftershave and malice. Riley, that tobacco deck? Client loves it. But there's a snag leak to the press. Some freelancer sniffing around queer rags, asking about ethical compromises in ad land. My blood iced. The story, my story about us? No, I kept it personal. But the timing. Anyone you know? Victor's eyes narrowed. Predatory. Nope, I lied. Pulse hammering. Sounds like a witch hunt, he grunted, dismissing me with a wave. I bolted to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, staring at the drain like it held answers. The text. Derek. My writing. Threads tangling into a noose. That night, Anthony was late again. When he finally showed, eyes bloodshot, I confronted him in the kitchen, takeout cooling on the counter. What's going on? Really? He leaned against the fridge, arms crossed like a shield. Derek cornered me today. Offered the job again, 6 figures. Mark. We could buy that Green Lake place outright. No loans. And the strings. He looked away, jaw working. He implied things. Said he misses the old days. That you're just a rebound. The room spun. Am I? No. God. No. He crossed to me, hands on my shoulders, but I shrugged him off. Mark. Listen. The text. Poured out then. Ugly and accusatory. Someone warned me about your ghosts. Is this it, Derek? The past. Am I just patching a hole till something better rolls up? Hurt flashed in his eyes, raw as an open wound. You think I'd, after everything? His voice cracked. Derek's poison, always has been. Manipulative prick who bails when it gets real. I walked from that life for a reason. Then why entertain him? Because I'm scared too, he shouted, the words exploding like a dropped hammer. Scared this us is too good, and I'll fuck it up like I did before. Lost my marriage, my folks' respect, half my crew when I came out. You think I don't wake up sweating, wondering if you'll wake up and see the cracks. Silence fell, heavy as rain on tin. I reached for him, apology on my lips, but he stepped back. I need air. Don't just give me tonight. He left, door clicking soft as a goodbye. I sank to the floor, head in hands, the freelance article glaring from my screen. Fixing flats. How one night changed everything. I'd submitted it that morning, anonymized, but with details: rainy highway, blue-eyed contractor that screamed us. By morning, my inbox overflowed. The mag's editor. Piece is gold, but we got a tip, real names, spill for the follow-up. And from an unknown, nice story. Too bad Hale's playing you. Ask about the accident. Accident? My hands shook as I dialed Anthony. Voicemail. Texts unread. Panic clawed up my throat. I grabbed my keys, hit the road to his site in Ballard, a Victorian row house, scaffolds like skeletons against the gray sky. He was there, barking orders at his crew, hammer in hand. Spotting me, his face softened, then hardened. Mark, what's the accident? I demanded, voice slicing the din. The hammer dropped. Crew paused, eyes darting. Not here. We retreated to his truck, engine idling like a held breath. 2 years ago, he started, staring at the wheel. Site collapse on a Reno in Queen Anne. Faulty beams. I signed off. One guy hurt bad, leg crushed. Derek's firm. They pinned it on me, settled quiet to save face. I carry that guilt like a brick in my chest. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's my shit to bury. His eyes met mine, haunted. Didn't want it touching you, but it is. The text. Derek. He's using it to pull you back. Anthony swore, punching the dash. That bastard. He's been digging, threatening to reopen it if I don't sign on. Betrayal hit like a sucker punch. Not just Derek's, but the walls we built between us, brick by unspoken brick. We fix together, I said, fierce. Or not at all. He nodded, slow, then pulled me across the console, kiss bruising with desperation. Together. Promise. But promises, like tires, can blow when you least expect. The fallout came swift. Victor summoned me again, this time with HR in tow. Your little expose has got the client spooked. Leaks like that scream conflict. You're off the campaign, indefinitely. Fired? Suspended? The words blurred. But I didn't. Save it. Clean out your desk. His smirk was victory. Oh, and that promotion. Smoke. I packed my shit in a box. Stapler, coffee mug, a framed pride flag from last year's march, and hit the street, rain starting up like applause for my ruin. Anthony met me at a diner in Pioneer Square, our booth a bunker of greasy hash browns and black coffee. Screw him, he said, lacing our fingers. You're free now. Write the real stuff. But freedom tasted like fear. Rent loomed, the studio lease ticking like a bomb. And Derek, his shadow lengthened. That night, as Anthony slept beside me, my phone lit up. Tell Hale the truth about the accident payout. Or I will. Truth? Anthony had settled. Sure. But what else? I scrolled old news clips on my phone, heart sinking. A buried article. Contractor Anthony Hale implicated in worker injury. Firm pays out $200,000 hush money. Hush money. not just guilt. Cover up? Dawn broke gray, and with it, resolve. I confronted him over eggs, voice steady. The payout, Anthony. Was it more than settlement? He froze, fork midway. Who, Derek? Doesn't matter. Was it? His shoulders slumped, defeat etching lines around his mouth. Yeah. Skimmed specs from another job to cut corners. Saved the firm cash, but it backfired. The payout was to everyone, me included, under the table. Kept my name clean for future gigs. Betrayal bloomed, hot and thorny. You lied. About everything, the fixer, the honest work. It's all tainted. No, he reached, but I recoiled. I changed, Mark. That was before you, before us. I'm paying it back, slow, through freelance fixes for nonprofits. Too late, the words tasted like bile. I can't build on lies. I left him there, plates cold, rain sheeting the windows. The highway that started it all blurred past as I drove, tears mixing with wipers. Fixed, he'd shattered me worse than any flat. Days bled into a haze. I crashed at a friend's couch in Belltown, pounding out freelance pieces that paid peanuts, essays on queer resilience, profiles of artists rising from ashes. The mag ran my story, anonymized, and emails trickled in. This is us. Thank you. It mended a fracture, small but real. Anthony's texts came relentless. Talk to me. Please. Bouquets at the door, wildflowers, no frills. I deleted, ignored, built walls higher than his scaffolds. Then Derek struck. A call from Victor. Heard you're shacked with hail. His accident, it's blowing up. Clients pulling ads. Thanks to your bedfellow skeletons. No. Derek had leaked it, twisted to torch us both. My byline on the queer piece, linked in some smear campaign, painting me as complicit. Rage propelled me to Derek's office downtown, a gleaming tower of glass and greed, his corner suite overlooking the sound. He greeted me with a shark smile, Armani suit crisp as his cruelty. Mark Riley. The writer. Coffee? Fuck your coffee. Leave Anthony alone. He leaned back, steepling fingers. Anthony? He's collateral. You want the real target? It's you. That article, poking at ad ethics? Hit too close. Hail's my leverage. You're scum. And you're naive. Love's a luxury in this city. Stick to poetry. I stormed out, fists clenched, dialing Anthony on the street. Meet me. Now. The lock and keel. He was there in minutes, face haggard, flannel rumpled. We slid into our old booth, the air thick with ghosts. Derek, I started, spilling it all, the leak, the threats, the payout truth I'd already unearthed. His eyes darkened. I should have ended it sooner. Then, softer, I'm sorry, Mark. For the lies, the weight I dumped indirect. But I love you, flaws and all. Let me fix this. The dam broke. Tears hot on my cheeks. How? It's all crumbling. Together, echo of our ledge promise. He cupped my face, thumb brushing salt away. I quit Derek's orbit for good. Turned down the job, reported the harassment. And the accident? I'm coming clean. Full disclosure to the union. Restitution to the worker. No more hiding. Vulnerability stripped him bare. The fixer fixed. I leaned in, forehead to his. And us? Us is the build worth everything. His kiss was tentative, then fierce, the bar fading to just heartbeats. But climax loomed, thunderous. Derek didn't slink away. That night, as we walked arm in arm to my place, tires screeched. A black SUV barreled from the alley, clipping Anthony, sending him sprawling to the wet pavement. Blood, not much, but enough to stain the rain red. "Anthony!" I screamed, dropping beside him, hands pressing his shoulder where the bumper grazed. Sirens wailed distant, his eyes fluttering. "Mark. Love. Hold on. Please." The world narrowed to his pulse under my fingers, faint but fighting. Paramedics swarmed, lights strobing the night. Hospital wait was agony. Sterile halls, coffee sludge, my freelance box clutched like a talisman. The doc emerged. Concussion, deep laceration. He'll pull through. "Family? Me," I said, fierce. Always, in his room, bandaged and groggy, Anthony stirred. "Derek. Cops have him. Hit and run setup caught on CCTV. It's over." Relief cracked his voice. "You stayed. Promised we'd fix together." I climbed onto the bed, careful of tubes, his hand in mine. No more ghosts. Weeks mended slow. Anthony's shoulder scarred, a new tattoo inked over it, a flat tire, patched strong. I quit the agency for good, my queer history series going viral, landing a book deal, Roadside Hearts, Stories of Seattle's Unsung Loves. Dedication to Anthony, my fixer, my home. The Green Lake Bungalow? We closed on it springtime, cherry blossoms painting the yard pink. First night, unpacking boxes by lantern light, he pulled me to the porch. "Remember the highway? Hard to forget." I leaned into him, city lights twinkling like stars. "You fixed me that night," he whispered. "More than the tire. And you me." Our kiss sealed it, rain pattering soft, a benediction, not a curse. Spring in Seattle hit like a revelation that year, the kind that sneaks up after months of gray and leaves you blinking at the green. Anthony's recovery was a dance of small victories. Physical therapy twice a week in a strip mall clinic off Aurora, where he'd grit his teeth through pulley exercises while I waited with dog-eared New Yorkers and vending machine pretzels. "This sling's cramping my style," he'd gripe, flexing his good arm to flex for laughs. But I'd see the pain flicker in his eyes, the echo of that screeching SUV. Derek's arrest made headlines. Developer charged in assault over business feud. The kind of tabloid fodder that painted him as a jilted lover with a grudge, glossing over the queer undercurrents but nailing the malice. Anthony testified, voice steady in the courtroom, recounting the threats, the accident cover-up he'd finally confessed in full. The union cleared him with a slap on the wrist, restitution paid, license intact, and his crew welcomed him back with backslaps and a banner. Hale's Unbreakable. Me, the book deal was a whirlwind. My agent, a no-nonsense dyke named Lena from Brooklyn via email, hounded deadlines. Make it bleed heart, Riley. Readers want the mess, the hookups that haunt, the parades that heal. I wrote in the bungalow's sunroom, Anthony's drafting table repurposed as my desk. Windows open to the lake's lap and bird calls. Chapters flowed. Elders like Theo sharing tales of Stonewall ripples in the Pacific Northwest. Twinks turned activists fighting for trans healthcare. And woven through our story, rain-slicked rescue to hit-and-run redemption, raw as exposed wiring. Nights, we'd collapse on the half-assembled couch, delivery delayed, so thrift store futon for now, trading pages for blueprints. This bit about the open mic, he'd say, underlining a line, too flowery. Make it grittier, like the drag queen's eyeliner runs in the rain. I'd swat him playful. Says the guy who calls every sunset God's paintbrush. Laughter filled the house, chasing shadows. But scars linger, and ours itched. One evening, as I stirred risotto in the kitchen, our first home-cooked since the hospital, Anthony's phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. He snatched it, but not before I glimpsed the preview. Missed you at the site today. Drinks? Jay. I echoed, spoon pausing mid-stir. Jake. Old hookup from the crew. Harmless, but his ears pinked. That telltale flush. I set the spoon down, heart thudding uneven. Harmless like Derek? Mark. He stepped close. Hands up. It's nothing. Swear. The doubt. That old highway hitchhiker. Thumbed a ride back in. You've been distant. Late texts. Early mornings. If it's stress from the trial. It's not. His voice softened, pulling me into his chest. Chin on my head. PT's kicking my ass. And the book's got you buried in words. We're good. Yeah. I nodded into his shirt, inhaling pine and plaster, willing belief. But sleep that night was fitful, dreams of flats blowing out on endless blacktop. The launch party for my series, now a chapbook, Echoes of the Edge, was at a bookstore in Georgetown. All fairy lights and exposed rafters, rainbow flags draping the stacks. Anthony stood proud beside me, sling swapped for a sharp button-down, arm around my waist as I read from the stage. To the fixers, I finished, voice thick. Who patch us when we can't patch ourselves? Applause thundered, and in the crowd, Theo hooped, arm linked with a silver fox who looked like he'd stepped from a 70s disco album. After, over cheap wine and cheese cubes, Anthony cornered me by the mystery section. Proud as hell, babe. You lit that room up. Heat bloomed, pride, lust, love tangled. We slipped out early, driving the winding roads to Green Lake, windows down, his hand on my thigh. At home, the risotto long forgotten, we christened the sunroom floor, tarps and paint cans shoved aside, his body over mine, slow and reverent, like consecrating ground. You're my story, he gasped, fingers digging into hips. The one worth every word. Morning brought mail. A letter from the injured worker. Crisp envelope with a Tacoma postmark. Anthony sliced it open at breakfast, face paling as he read. He's suing. Says my confession reopened the wound. Wants double the settlement. My coffee turned bitter. But you paid restitution. Union says it's civil now. Derek's lawyers are fanning flames, claiming I dragged his name to save mine. He crumpled the paper, knuckles white. Could bankrupt us before we unpack the damn garage. Panic clawed, our nest egg, the bungalow's mortgage, my advance eaten by renovations. Fight it. I'm trying. His eyes met mine, weary. But Mark, what if I lose everything? You won't lose me. I crossed to him, straddling his lap at the table, kiss fierce to banish the fear. We're in this build, but builds buckle under weight. Freelance dried up as summer scorched in, unusual for Seattle, the heat wave wilting my inbox. Lena called, book's solid, but market's queer fatigued. Push the romance angle, your hail hookup's gold. I balked. It's not a hookup. It's life. Life sells when it's pretty. Lean in. I leaned, instead, into Anthony. We escaped to the San Juans for a weekend, ferry slicing Salish Sea. his head on my shoulder as Orcus breached distant. On Orcus Island, we rented a cabin by the shore, driftwood beams, no Wi-Fi, hiking to Mountain Lake, where we swam naked, water shocking cold, his laughter echoing off firs. That night, fire crackling, he carved our initials into a log. H plus MR. Heartsick simple. Forever marker, he said, handing me the knife. I traced it, throat tight. Even if the world sues us broke, especially then. His arms wrapped me, pulling to the rug, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces worn smooth. Lovemaking by firelight, shadows dancing, his whispers vows against my skin. You're my north, Mark. Always. Back in the city, reality reeled us in. The lawsuit deposition loomed, lawyers billing hours like heartbeats. Anthony threw himself into work, taking side gigs, flipping a Capitol Hill walk-up, gutting a Fremont loft, coming home hollow-eyed, smelling of sweat and strangers' lives. One night, I waited up, dinner cold, when he stumbled in at 2 a.m. Sight ran long, he mumbled, avoiding eyes. Bullshit, the words escaped, sharp. Jake again, he froze in the doorway, jacket half off. What? The texts. I saw another one today. Missed our chat. Who's we? Anthony? Silence stretched, taut as wire. It's work. Networking. Network naked? Jealousy poisoned my tongue, but hurt fueled it. Or is this your out? When the going gets tough? His face crumpled, anger flashing. After everything, the hospital, the stand I took, you think I'd throw us for a quick fuck? Then prove it. Challenge hung. Electric. He tossed his jacket, stepping close, breath ragged. I don't have to prove shit. I chose you. Every damn day. But doubt lingered in his pause. The unspoken until the fight simmered cold. Days of clipped words and separate beds. The guest room a no man's land of boxes and regret. I buried in edits. Lena's notes slashing red. Too sentimental. Cut the sap. The sap was us, bleeding on the page. Then the bomb. A knock at noon, while Anthony was out. 2 suits, process servers, handing me papers. Subpoena for my depot in the suit. Mark Riley, witness to Anthony Hale's character. Alleged fraud. Fraud? My stomach lurched. This is bullshit. Sign here. Cold efficiency. Anthony came home to me pacing. Papers fanned on the table. They dragged you in? Yeah. Say my association taints you, grinder history. My articles painting you saintly. He sank to a chair, head in hands. Derek's ghost, still swinging. His firm's bankrolling the worker now. Betrayal renewed, layered. We end this. Publicly, his eyes lifted, fierce. How? My book. I name it all, the accident, the payout, Derek's sabotage. Truth as weapon. Risky. Libel suits. Career torch. But his nod was steel. Do it. For us. We co-wrote the afterword that week. His words halting. Mind fluid. Anthony Hale isn't flawless. He's human, scarred by choices that haunt. But in owning them, he fixed more than beams. He fixed a heart, mended a life. Submission sent. We waited, tension coiling like spring. Then, climax cracked open. The afterword dropped like a grenade in the literary pond. Ripples hitting queer feeds from Seattle to San Francisco. Echoes of the edge climb charts. Reviews gushing, raw, redemptive, a love story forged in fallout. but backlash bit. Conservative blogs, snarling grifter gays gaming the system. Victor emailing from his godforsaken agency. Told you Hale was trouble. Enjoy the gutter. Anthony fielded worse. Crew whispers. A client pulling a bid. Worth it. He'd say over morning runs along the lake, our breaths sinking in the mist. Cleared the air. But air thickened when the worker's lawyer called. Your confession? Assuages us. Settlement at original. Case dropped. If Hale testifies against Derek's firm. Done, Anthony said, hanging up, then pulling me into a victory spin in the kitchen. We're free, Mark. Really free. Freedom's first taste was a vow renewal impromptu on the summer solstice at Discovery Park's lighthouse. Theo officiated in a caftan swirling seafoam with a dozen friends circling. Drag queens with ukuleles, activists toasting with rose. Anthony in linen slacks, me in chinos, barefoot on the bluff as waves crashed below. Do you, fixer of flats and hearts? Theo intoned, take this writer, in rain and shine. I do. Anthony's ring, a hammered silver band, engraved with a wrench, slid onto my finger, his eyes bluer than the horizon. And you, Mark, scribe of souls, take this builder, flaws and all, with everything, my vow, simple, you're my road home, seals stamped with salt-kissed kisses, cheers erupting as gulls wheeled overhead. That night, under solstice stars, we made love on the bungalow's new deck, finished just in time, cedar warm under us, his body a constellation I mapped anew, every scar a star. But romance's reality, and fall brought frost. My book tour kicked off, Portland readings, a Vancouver signing, leaving Anthony to solo the Reno boom. Calls grew sparse. Miss you. Sights a beast. Texts trailed hearts, but distance bred distance. In LA, at a panel on Queer Lit, a fan cornered me post-talk. That Hale story hot, but is it real? Or just pretty prose? Real as rain, I quipped, but unease slithered. Back in the hotel, I scrolled his Insta work selfies, crew shots, but one tagged. Anthony arm in arm with a guy at a Ballard bar. Captions old times. New builds crew night. Jake. The flush from months back. I dialed. Voicemail. Text. Fun night? Reply just beers. You good? Good? The word mocked. I flew home early. Cab from Seattle Tacoma dumping me in the drizzle at midnight. Lights off in the bungalow odd. He turned. And there, the guest room door ajar. Murmurs leaking. Heart in throat. Pushed in. Anthony, shirtless on the bed. Jake beside him. Not touching, but close. Hands gesturing heated. Papers scattered. Blueprints. A job offer from Jake's firm. Mark. Anthony bolted up, face ashen. Jake smirked, unfazed. Oops. Interrupted. Get out. My voice steel, though knees buckled. Jake sauntered past, shoulder clipping mine. Call me, Hale. Offer stands. Door slammed. Silence imploded. It's not, Anthony started. Save it. Betrayal. Fresh and flaying. Blonde. Built. Begging for your hammer? Classic. Jesus. No. He raked hands through hair. Jake's pitching a partnership legit. For the Victorian flip. Talk ran late. Wine involved. Nothing happened. Wine? At midnight. In our bed. Sarcasm dripped venom. Trust's a tire. Anthony. Punctured once. It leaks forever. His eyes welled. First time I'd seen it. I swear. Swears are your specialty. Accident. Derek. Now this. I grabbed my keys, storming out to the truck he'd left running. Need space. Mark. Wait. But I drove. Aimless. Ending at the highway pull-off where it began. Rain lashed. Wipers frantic. Memories replaying his flashlight beam. That first half-smile. How had we unraveled? Dawn found me at Theo's cafe, hollow-eyed over espresso. He slid into the booth. No questions. Love's a storm, kid. Doesn't drown you unless you let it. But the signs, late nights. Secrets. Signs or scars. Hails carrying ghosts you can't exorcise. Theo sipped. Wise. Talk before you torch. I texted Anthony. Coffee. Neutral ground. Noon. The Lock and Keel. Our origin booth. He arrived rumpled. Shadows under eyes. I fired Jake. Turned the offer down. For us. Words hung. Why him? Why now? Stupid. Lonely without you on tour. He texted old habit and I caved to the chat. Not the man. His hand extended across the table. I took it. Lifeline. You're my only. Mark. Always were. Forgiveness isn't clean. Jagged. Like splintered wood. But we rebuilt. Couples therapy in a queen and office. Rain pattering the skylight as we unpacked betrayals. Vulnerabilities the glue. Our counselor, a soft-spoken Latino named Raul, urged. Name the fears. Anthony's. Losing you to my messes. Mine. Being the rebound. The fix that fails. Sessions bled into dates. Picnics at Gasworks Park. Kite flying like kids. His laughter chasing kites skyward. Winter crept. Holidays humming with lights. Our first tree. Ornaments hand-painted. A mini wrench. A tiny typewriter. Christmas Eve. Snow rare and magic. We bundled for the market. Stalls glowed. Mulled wine steaming. Carolers belting O Holy Night. Anthony stopped at a jeweler's booth, pulling a velvet box. Not proposing yet. But promise ring. Inside. Twin bands. Mine etched fixed. His forever. To the nights we mend, he said, sliding it on. Tears froze on my lashes. Yes, but humanism humbles. New Year's brought news. The worker, touched by our afterword, dropped the suit entirely. Saw my own fractures in your words, his letter read. Healing starts with truth. Spring bloomed again. Our book a quiet hit anthologized. Taught in college seminars. Anthony's firm grew, specializing in queer-owned renos. Safe spaces for trans families. Community centers with pride murals. One July Eve, as fireflies danced over the lake, Anthony knelt on our deck, proper this time. Ring glinting gold. Simple. Engraved road home. Marry me, Mark. Build the rest of forever. Lump in throat. Joy bursting. Hell yes. Wedding was small. Beach at Alki. Sunset gilding the sound. Theo officiating again. Vows handwritten on napkins like our first notes. I fix for you, Anthony said, voice carrying on the breeze. You write our story, and I love your every line, I replied, sealing with a kiss as waves applauded. Honeymoon in the Olympics, cabins by Ho rainforest, moss-draped trees whispering ancient yes. We hiked, made love in hammocks, his body my compass in the green maze. Back home, life layered, my second book brewing, mended maps, his crew expanding, a nonprofit arm for low-income rehabs. Conflicts came, arguments over paint swatches, late nights clashing, but we fixed, always, with coffee and candor. One stormy night, a call, my mom, from Ohio, voice tentative. Saw your book. Proud, son. And Anthony, invite us to the wedding photos. Bridge mended, slow. Anthony's folks trickled in too. Awkward barbecue, but hugs exchanged, beers shared. Years spun, adoption talks, a rescue pup named Wrench. My TEDx talk on love's labor, Anthony beaming front row. Betrayals faded to footnotes, the highway a fond scar. In our 50th year, no. Wait, the story pauses here. But imagine, gray at temples, hands still lacing easy, porch swings creaking to Springsteen tunes. He fixed my heart. All right, not perfect, but whole. Human. American as apple pie and endless rain, dramatic. Deep, defiantly ours. Decades don't erase the rain. They just teach you to dance in it. By our 10th anniversary, the bungalow had evolved. A writer's turret added. Anthony's workshop expanded into the garage. Walls lined with tools that doubled as art. Wrench, our mutt with the soulful eyes and penchant for stealing socks, patrolled the yard, gray-muzzled but spry. We'd adopted him post-honeymoon, a shelter rescue with a limp from some forgotten flat of his own. Life's conflicts never fully retired. They morphed, subtler. My third book, Fractured Foundations, delved into queer aging interviews with couples weathering ALS diagnoses, retirement blues, the quiet betrayals of bodies failing. Critics hailed it profoundly humanistic, but writing it unearthed my own fears. What if Anthony's shoulder scar ached eternal? What if my words dried up, leaving silence where stories should sing? He sensed it. As always, over a backyard fire pit one crisp autumn eve, marshmallows toasting golden. You're brooding, scribe. Spill. I poked the embers, sparks rising like doubts. The book has got me thinking mortality. Us getting old, creaky. What if we can't fix each other then? Anthony set his stick down, pulling me between his knees, chin on my shoulder. Then we sit pretty, watching sunsets. Love isn't lug nuts, Mark, it's the drive. His arms tightened, world shrinking to crackle and warmth. Besides, I've got a will, you inherit the bad jokes. Laughter bubbled, easing the knot. We made love under stars that night, slow as aged wine, his whispers mapping new landscapes on skin softened by time but no less electric. The real climax crept in winter, unannounced, a call from Anthony's doc after a routine check. PSA levels elevated. Biopsy recommended. Cancer. The word landed like a scaffold collapse, buckling the world. We drove home silent, his hand in mine white-knuckled on the gearshift. In the kitchen, papers spread like omens. He cracked first. If it's bad, promise you'll write the ugly parts. No varnish. Only if you promise to fight. Tears tracked, but resolve hardened. We're in this build. Biopsy confirmed. Prostate. Early stage. Aggressive but catchable. Surgery scheduled. Radiation to follow. Friends rallied. Theo with meal trains of gumbo and gossip. Lena forwarding speaking gigs to fund the bills. My mom's visits increased. Her and Anthony bonding over bad puns at chemo waits. Her hand finally squeezing mine without the old Ohio frost. Betrayal surfaced. Insidious. Not from him, but doubt mine, whispering why him. What did we do to deserve this? Nights, I'd wake to his shallow breaths, tracing his profile by moonlight, terror clawing, "Don't leave me on this highway alone." One storm-lashed midnight, post-op, wires snaking his arms in the hospital glow. He stirred. "Mark, remember the flat." Every drop, I stroked his brow, for beeping steady. "You fixed me then. Let me return the wrench." His grip tightened, weak but willful. "Write it. Our story, end to end. Human, messy, the love that outlasts." I did. A final book, Terminal Ties, serialized in the mag that started it all, vignettes of vigils, the humanism in hospital jello, the romance in stolen kisses past privacy curtains. Readers wrote back, "Your words mend what meds can't." It became our anchor, royalties funding experimental trials. Months blurred to miracle, remission declared on a daffodil-strewn April morn. We celebrated at the highway pull-off, spare tire in the trunk as talisman, champagne fizzing in paper cups. "To fixes unforeseen," he toasted, pulling me close against the truck, rain threatening but holding off. "To hearts unbreakable," our kiss tasted of salt and second chances, the I-5 humming past like applause. Years piled gentle, grandkids via my sister's line, romping the yard with Wrench's successor, pup named Spark. Anthony retired partial, consulting on green builds, sustainable queer spaces, solar-powered havens. I lectured, a gray fox at podiums, voice gravelly but gripping. Love's the ultimate renovation, dramatic falls, emotional rebuilds, romantic rises, all humanly flawed. Our 40th God, time's thief, fell on a balmy July, beach bash at Alki Redux. Theo, frilier but fierce, remarried in a double ceremony. Us renewing, him to his silver fox. Vows evolved, "I fix for you," through cancer and carpools. Anthony said, "Ring renewed, I still that piercing blue." "You write our forever," I echoed, flats and all, as dusk dipped the sound copper. We danced barefoot to a busker's guitar, Springsteen. Of course, bodies swaying loose, scars badges. Friends encircled, fireflies winking, the city a constellation we'd claimed. Later, porch swing creaking, his head on my shoulder, Anthony murmured, "Best detour ever, that flat, best heart heist." I kissed his temple, silver hair soft. Humanism's end? Not tragic, not wholly happy, just true. We aged into elders, stories etched deeper than ink. The betrayal mended, conflicts composted to growth. Anthony passed first, quiet in sleep on our 50th eve, hand in mine, a half smile like that first rainy night. I buried him by the lake, green eternal. Grief's flat blue wide, but I wrote the epilogue, Eternal Road, dedicating to the man who patched more than rubber. Readers gathered at the funeral read. "He fixed hearts," I said, voice steady, starting with mine, and in the quiet after, rocking with Spark's grandpup, I'd whisper to the wind, "Thanks for the lift, fixer." Seattle rained on, but I danced dramatic, emotional, romantic, human under its benevolent pour. Forever fixed, in ways never expected.